Hey, this is Matt from Quandri. And before we even get to the first episode of Future Intelligence, I wanted to share something with you all that I think is really freaking cool. So I was messing around with various AI services the other day, and I stumbled upon Google's NotebookLM. And this is a service, if you're not familiar with it, that allows you to upload PDFs and have AI evaluate the PDFs and answer questions for you about the documents. So for an example, you could upload a company's entire annual earnings report in PDF format, and the AI will scan through it, and then you can ask it questions in kind of a chat format, and then it will give you insights. That part is certainly cool enough, and I can only imagine how that could have transformed my work when I was doing strategy. But they have an even cooler feature. I think it's an even cooler feature that goes way above and beyond simple Q&A. So it follows the same process. You upload this document, you figure out basically the question you want it to ask, but then this Notebook LM will generate a fake conversation between two people that don't really exist that sounds kind of like an NPR podcast. It's really amazing. And not only are some of the insights that it delivers pretty impressive, especially considering this is quote-unquote just AI, it really goes far enough to be entertaining, which I think is just freaking wild. So I started by doing about 4 different things. So I uploaded Disney's annual report that was just recently released, 2024, and I asked it to go ahead and generate a conversation around that. That was cool enough, and you should really check that out. It's on our YouTube page. But then I decided, okay, well, that's pretty straightforward, right? Like, it's a whole 10K. There's nothing like really that unique about looking through everything and analyzing it as a whole, as in its entirety. So I thought, okay, well, that was interesting. But what if I gave this Notebook LM Microsoft's annual report, but then I asked it for just the Xbox results, so that it needs to comb through the whole 200 plus, I can't even remember how long it is, page document, and suss out just the Xbox segment results with pretty high level direction. So like, for instance, uploading the PDF to the service and then typing in the question, hey, what were Xbox's results? Give me some of the highlights and risks, and then like, what are they doing for the future? Something that basic. And then it generates this entire conversation. And the AI chose to first, well, maybe you should hear it for yourselves. The whole point of this is I wanted to share one of these conversations with you, maybe the first of several, depending on how interesting the output is from this. But I found it extremely entertaining to listen to this fake podcast of these two presenters going over Xbox's results. So let me share this with you quickly, and I'm going to have other surprises for you in our next episode. But for now, let me leave you with Xbox's financial results as told by Google's Notebook LM.
Welcome to another deep dive. This time around, we're tackling a listener question, a really great one, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone wrote in asking about Microsoft's Xbox gaming division.
Okay.
They want to know how it's actually performing, what's coming up next for them, and what are the biggest opportunities and risks.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, and to get to the bottom of all that, we're going straight to the source, Microsoft's 2024 10K filing.
All right.
Now, I know a 10K isn't exactly like beach reading.
It's a little dry.
Yeah, but buried in all those numbers, there are some serious insights.
Oh, absolutely. 10Ks, they go deep. They give you a level of detail and transparency that you just don't get anywhere else. It's like it's like a treasure map to the real story.
Okay, so before we dive headfirst into all things Xbox, can you give us a quick overview of Microsoft's performance based on this 10K, just to set the stage?
Sure. So this 10K covers Microsoft's fiscal year 2024, which ended June 30th of this year. And 2024 was a monster year for them.
Like, how big are we talking?
Well, their revenue hit $245 billion,
Right.
up from $211 billion in 2023.
Okay, so that's a pretty massive jump. What were some of their biggest expenses this year?
Well, a huge chunk went to employee compensation, makes sense with the global workforce like theirs, and of course, a lot of spending on cloud infrastructure and product development, which is critical for their future, including for Xbox.
Okay, speaking of spending, one figure that really caught my eye was the $114 billion with a B, that they spent on property and equipment in 2024 alone.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge number.
Right, that's more than the GDP of a lot of countries.
That's right, and a lot of that's got to be going to expanding those data centers, which are essential for their cloud business, including Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Okay.
Plus, with AI and machine learning taking off, that investment is a strategic move that goes way beyond gaming.
So it's clear that Microsoft is in it for the long haul. They're investing big time in infrastructure for their future plans. Now let's zero in on Xbox. Where does it fit into this bigger picture?
So Xbox is part of what they call the more personal computing segment in the 10K.
More personal computing.
Yeah, and that might sound a little broad, but it covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Windows, devices like the Surface and HoloLens, PC accessories, and then, of course, gaming. That's where Xbox lives, including hardware, content, and services.
Okay, so it's a pretty diverse mix. So tell me, how is Xbox actually doing financially?
Well, gaming revenue saw a huge jump in 2024, up a whopping 39% to hit $6 billion.
Wow, 39%. That's impressive. What's driving that growth?
Well, there's two sides to that growth story. Xbox content and services revenue exploded by 50% in 2024.
50%. That's massive. What's behind that?
Yeah, well, one word comes to mind, Activision Blizzard.
Ah, yes. The Activision Blizzard deal. That was big news. Can you remind us what makes them so important?
Sure. They are behind some of the biggest franchises in gaming, like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush. I mean, these are games with huge global audiences. Microsoft definitely knew what they were doing when they added those titles to their portfolio.
So how much of that 50% growth can we chalk up to Activision Blizzard?
Well, the 10K actually breaks that down. It says that the acquisition contributed 44 percentage points to that growth.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it was a pretty significant impact then.
Yeah, no doubt.
So even without Activision Blizzard, Xbox content and services were still growing, but obviously at a much slower pace. So something else must be contributing to that growth.
Absolutely. Activision Blizzard is a big piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole story. And that leads us to the question of what else is driving Xbox's growth? Well, the 10K gives us a few hints. You know how we talked about Microsoft's big investments in cloud infrastructure?
Yeah.
Well, those are directly tied to their plans for Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Oh, right. Cloud gaming. That's been getting a lot of buzz, but honestly, I'm still not quite sure I totally get it. Could you break it down for me?
Yeah, sure.
Like, explain it like I'm 5.
Okay, so imagine you want to play like the hottest new game, but your laptop just isn't powerful enough to run it smoothly. That's where cloud gaming comes in. Instead of the game running on your device, it actually runs on these super powerful servers in Microsoft's data centers.
Okay.
And then the game's video output that gets streamed to your device. It's kind of like how you stream a movie on Netflix.
Okay.
And then your inputs from your controller, those get sent back to the server like in real time.
So it's basically like having a crazy, powerful gaming PC in the cloud that you can access from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. No need for expensive hardware. All you need is a decent internet connection, and you can play the latest games.
So how does this all fit into Microsoft's overall strategy for Xbox? Like, what are they hoping to achieve with cloud gaming?
Well, from what I'm seeing in the 10K, they see cloud gaming as a key part of the future of Xbox. It allows them to reach way more people, not just console gamers.
Right, so they don't need to convince people to buy a console. They can reach anyone who has internet.
Exactly. It just opens up gaming to so many more people. People who might be intimidated by consoles or people who just, don't want to spend a ton of money on hardware.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there are some challenges with cloud gaming. What kind of risks does Microsoft point to in the 10K?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There are definitely some hurdles. Probably the biggest one is latency.
Latency.
Yeah, the delay between, when you press a button and when you actually see the action on screen. Since the game is running remotely, even a tiny delay can make some games, especially those fast-paced action games, feel like really unresponsive.
Right. Lag is super annoying.
Exactly. Another big one is bandwidth. Streaming these high-quality game graphics takes a ton of data, so you absolutely need a fast, stable internet connection.
So really, if cloud gaming is going to be the future, we need to see even more improvements in internet speed and availability.
Absolutely. And Microsoft actually acknowledges that in the 10K. They know that the success of cloud gaming depends on a lot of things that are totally outside of their control.
So it's a bit of a gamble, but it seems like they're betting big on this technology.
They are.
So we've got cloud gaming. What else is Microsoft doing to drive growth, aside from, the Activision Blizzard deal?
Well, there's another major initiative that really jumps out in the 10K, and that's Xbox Game Pass.
Oh, yeah. Game Pass. I've heard a lot about that. People call it like the Netflix of gaming, right?
That's the one. It's a subscription service where you pay a monthly fee and you get access to a whole library of games.
So you just pay one price and you can play all kinds of games.
Hundreds of games.
Wow.
New releases, classic titles. It's like, an all-you-can-eat buffet of games.
That sounds like a pretty amazing deal. But what's the bigger picture here? Why is Microsoft investing so heavily in Game Pass?
Well, the 10K gives us some clues. Microsoft wants to move away from that transactional model where you buy individual games.
Okay.
And instead they want to move towards a model where they have recurring revenue.
Right. So they want to get people subscribing so that they have a consistent stream of income.
Exactly. By building up these subscribers, they're not relying on selling each individual game, and it creates this more engaged user base.
Right. It makes sense. It's like the difference between selling albums and, streaming music.
Exactly. And that's what they're going for. They want to build up this loyal community of subscribers who are constantly engaging with the Xbox ecosystem.
Okay, so Game Pass is a big deal for their strategy. But how does it relate to cloud gaming? Are they connected at all?
Oh, they're totally intertwined. Actually, one of the best things about Game Pass is that it includes access to Xbox cloud gaming.
Oh, wow. So as a Game Pass subscriber, you can play games on your console, but also stream them to other devices through the cloud.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart. So they're creating this whole ecosystem where Game Pass is your ticket to all sorts of different ways to play. Console, PC, even your phone.
Right. And that's where you start to see just how smart their strategy is. They're building this holistic gaming experience.
So we've got cloud gaming, we've got Game Pass. It seems like Microsoft is going all in on the future of gaming.
Huh.
But of course, with any big move like this, there are always risks. What are some of the challenges that Microsoft will have to overcome to really make this vision a reality?
Well, one of the biggest risks is competition.
Yeah.
The gaming world it's intense.
Right. You've got Sony, you've got Nintendo. They've got their own hardcore fans.
Exactly. Those are some well-established players. They're not going anywhere.
So how does Microsoft plan to stand out in such a crowded market?
Well, from what I'm seeing in the 10K, differentiation is key for them. They're really leaning into their strengths.
Okay. Like what?
Like their expertise in cloud computing, their resources. They want to create experiences that you can't get anywhere else. It's not just about having the most powerful console.
Right. It's the whole package. Services, the games themselves, the community.
Exactly. And another risk they point out is their reliance on those third-party developers. Xbox needs those developers to keep making awesome games that bring players to their platform.
It's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
Xbox needs great games, and developers need a platform where they can reach a big audience.
Right. And if those developers start focusing on other platforms, well, that could be a problem for Xbox.
Yeah.
But the 10K also shows that Microsoft is putting money into their own game studios, which could help.
Right, so they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. They're trying to diversify a bit.
Right.
And then there's the whole security issue.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one these days.
Huge. I mean, gaming platforms are a prime target for hackers, right? You've got millions of users, their personal info, financial transactions. It's like a magnet for cyber attacks.
So what is Microsoft doing to protect Xbox and its users?
Well, the 10K doesn't give us step-by-step details, but they do make it clear that security and privacy are top priorities. They're putting a ton of money into cybersecurity.
Okay, good to know. So we've talked about competition, we've talked about developers, security, anything else in the 10K?
Yeah, one more thing they mention is the rising cost of, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Producing hardware.
Right. Inflation, supply chain issues.
Exactly. That's something that's impacting a lot of tech companies.
Right. Everything's more expensive.
Yeah. And that means it's probably costing more to make those consoles, which could hurt their profits.
Right. So with all these challenges and all these risks, what does the 10K tell us about Microsoft's vision for Xbox? What's the game plan going forward?
Well, they make it very clear that they see gaming as a major growth area. They're not just dipping their toes in the water here.
Right.
They're diving headfirst into the future of gaming.
They're all in.
They are.
What are the key parts of that strategy?
Well, we already talked about two of the big ones, cloud gaming and Game Pass.
Uh-huh.
They are going all in on those. They are investing heavily in the infrastructure, the content, and they also talk a lot about creating, quote, high-value end-user experiences, unquote.
What does that even mean?
Well, they're talking about pushing the limits of gaming,
Yeah.
Creating more immersive, more engaging experiences.
Okay, so things like virtual reality, augmented reality, even the metaverse.
Exactly. And when you think about it, it all ties back to their investment in cloud gaming, because that could be the key to unlocking those crazy immersive experiences.
So they're really thinking long term, not just next year, but, 5 years, 10 years down the line.
That's right.
So it sounds like Microsoft is betting big on a future where gaming is more accessible, more immersive, more integrated into our lives than ever before.
Absolutely.
Wow. This has been a fascinating deep dive. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this.
My pleasure.
To our listener, we hope this has given you a better understanding of what's going on with Xbox and where things might be headed. And if you want to do your own deep dive into the 10K, we'll include a link in the show notes.
It's amazing to think how much gaming has already evolved, and who knows what the future holds.
It's going to be an exciting ride, that's for sure. So until next time, stay curious.
I know it sounds like the Saturday Night Live skit of like the NPR radio people, but you know what? Considering this is an AI generating all of this dialogue back and forth, and then in addition to it sounding, natural enough, it could be a parody of humanity, then adding in the fact that it is discussing actual results that are contained in a PDF, I think it's pretty entertaining at the very least. I can certainly see from a practical application standpoint that the Q&A text-based part of NotebookLM is probably more useful for professionals at the moment. And this kind of back and forth dialogue discussion is really more novelty than anything else. But I don't care. I think it's really cool. And I really wanted to share it with you because it just, if anything else to me, it hints at where things are headed. And it shows the potential of this technology to really transform entertainment. And it could be transforming it in exciting and scary ways all at once. But I do think it's really interesting, and I don't think it's going to replace human commentary anytime soon. It better not. I just started this. But I do think it's extremely entertaining and interesting. I did throw a few other examples at NotebookLM that I'm excited to share with you, but for now, I'll leave this episode as is. I hope you enjoyed this very first episode. It's actually not our first episode of Future Intelligence in what will be our regular format, but honestly, I was too excited to share this with you to wait to do things quote-unquote formally. So, whatever, man. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always check out more of these on our YouTube channel. Just go check out YouTube, look up Quandri. It'll be easy to find. And as we get more materials, I'll upload them often there first before there's any additional commentary around them. But at least I want to be able to get stuff out there so that if you're following us and you're enjoying some of the things that we're investigating, you get a first glance at it. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you all real soon.